let's say between this to MTA and the messenger client. Okay. So there are a lot of kind of authentication also in place. So let's say the username and passwords are verified over between over here. And once that verification is happening, has happened, that's where thing is that when once that email is reaches out to this border MTA, that's where SMTP protocol comes into action. That's where you see these things into action, like the hello packet and then the start with TLS packet, and then the exchange of the email data. And that's where what you do is that once this email analysis, once this email data is actually transferred to this server, then this MTA actually transferred that email to this MTA, which is also called as MDA. And that's where the destination, like let's suppose my computer will actually reads out that email and kind of takes it an action based on that email. Okay. So this is kind of, I'm not kind of over complicating the thing over the SMT protocol, but I want to kind of give you a good understanding in the theory part. Okay, what all things happen in background. Okay, when there is a kind of SMTP transaction in action. Okay, so there are a lot of things happening. So just to summarize, there is authentication in place, like are you really authorized to kind of send out the email? And then what also happened is that SMTP protocol exchange is being done over here, and the email, the IP address of this MTA is figured out via the MX record. Okay, and this is how the SMT protocol, the exchange, the three-way, the handshake is actually happening, where the client send out a hello packet, then a start TTLS happen to set up a SSL connection, and that's where your whole confidential email data is transferred from your organization to the other organization over here. Okay, so that's all about kind of SMTP at a high level, like what all things happen on the SMTP part. I hope this was easy to ingest. I have not gone in much more detail because going into much more detail will overcomplicate the thing. So I have tried to kind of explain the necessary part over here, what all things happen over the SMTP protocol, and try to kind of keep it kind of a loose discussion, light discussion. So if you guys have any kind of questions on this one, you guys can kind of let me know. And I hope like this was easy to kind of understand how the SMTP, what all things actually happens when there is a exchange of email from the border MTA to the border MTA of my organization over SMTP protocol. Okay. So now, if you guys don't have any questions, and let me see what all things I want to discuss further about this email part. Okay. So now what we will do is that now from this SMTP protocol, we had a discussion, and now we will jump out to the email analysis part. Okay. So let me just quickly write down the next topic, which is the email analysis part. And here we will be having a lab, not a lab, but kind of like I'll be setting some headers, and then we'll kind of, you can kind of follow up on that, and we will try to understand, okay, let's say we have a header and how we can figure out, let's say we have an email, for an example, and from that email, how we can figure out if that email is actually not an spoofed email, and also how we can figure out what's the path that has been taken by that email to reach out to your client, to your destination client. So this all thing we'll kind of look at. Okay. And the other, so I think that's all about the email analysis part that we'll kind of look at today. Okay. So so one thing, other guys, is that I hope you guys now understand why this SMTP protocol is something we discuss now. Because if we would have done that earlier, even without understanding the HTTPS traffic, the encryption, decryption, like client, hello server, hello the certificate exchange, understanding more about the DNS, if we had directly jumped to this one, it will have been a little bit more complicated. So here I understand you were able to understand that in much easier way, because we have already covered the DNS thing, the HTTPS discussion already, and that's why it was easy to kind of ingest what this SMTP protocol is all about. So I hope I am kind of an audible. There is no issue with the audio. So if you guys have any kind of questions or any concern, feel free to kind of interrupt me. If not, I will now jump to the email analysis part, and we'll look at like what all things are there in an email header. Okay. So thing is that what we will be doing is that let me quickly get one email header for you guys. Okay. So give me 1 second and I will quickly get an email header. Okay. For you guys. And before that, what we will do is that the email header in Outlook. Okay. Okay. So there are a few things like I wanted to kind of discuss about the email analysis. So the first component that we need to do any kind of email analysis, the first thing we need to have is the email header. Once we have this, then only we can proceed with any kind of analysis. Okay. So let's see how we can get this email header for any kind of email that we have received. Okay. So if any of the organization is kind of, let's say, let's say having the Outlook client. So there are a lot of like ways to get the email header. So let's say the client that you are using is Outlook, for example, to read the email. Or let's say you are using Gmail. Okay. Or let's say you have another client like RoundQ, for example. Okay. So these are all clients. To get the email header for any kind of email, the ways to kind of get that actually differs a bit between all this client. Okay, between all this client, uh, to get the email header, the process is almost similar, but it differs a bit. Like there will be a different button to click for Gmail to get the header. There will be a different button to click in Outlook to get the header. But at last, you will get the same header for the same email, no matter what client you use. Okay. So now the thing is that I will quickly kind of figure out, quickly discuss how you can get that for an Outlook client. So I don't have an Outlook client configured, but thing is that Outlook is actually, thing is that it is, let's say if the client is using the Outlook client, so it can be either that, let's say it is running over Windows, for an example, that Outlook software is running over Windows. So or it can be that the email is kind of accessed from Outlook via the website. Okay, so there is a specific website, outlook.com, from where you can just visit. If you have the Outlook configured, you can enter username and password and read the email from there. Okay, so over Windows, thing is that this is just a so let's say you have an email, you just double click that email. Okay, you just double click that email. You go to the file menu, and then you click on properties. So this will actually give you the header of that email. Okay. In the web part, again, it is showing over here is that you click on that email, you will have some will have an option like with three dots. When you click on that three dot, it will actually give you the header of that email. Okay, and you can just copy that out and do certain things. So this is how maybe the header will look like. Okay, and now what we'll do is that we'll look at this thing in much more detail. Okay, so let's say this is one of the header. Okay, consider, let's say, so this is a very good example. So let's say in Exchange, yeah, go on if you guys have any question. I heard some sound, guys. If you guys have any questions? Okay, so okay, so I understand that there is no questions. Okay, so I'll proceed again with the discussion. Okay, so if you guys are asking any questions, I'm not getting that. And if you have any, if you are, if You can maybe also